Good morning, Robbie. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm kind of in a little funk, but I'm all right.
Oh, really?
I'm in a coaching funk.
Oh.
Yeah. Just had one of those weekends where I didn't feel like I did a very good job, so I feel like you just kind of get in a funk. And as I was just texting with another athlete that, I get 24 hours just like the athlete does to either be super pumped and super proud of what I feel like I've accomplished, or I get 24 hours to basically sulk and be frustrated, and then I move on.
When you say frustrated, you mean just with some race results, or
No, not with results.
not with
Because
results?
I think that results. When you try to like detach from an outcome, the results just kind of are what they are, and you can't. I can't preach on one end. You can't have these time goals because you never know what's going to happen, and races are different, and there's different conditions and circumstances, and your body is this way, and but so I think just it's on some weekends you have great results, and you have results where you feel like you could have done a better job coaching. I think that's just kind of which is totally normal. I think for most coaches. I hope for most coaches that your answer is always what can you do better, not what did the athlete do wrong.
Yeah. When you say that, do you mean like the coaching that you prescribed for the actual race, or just over a long term that you maybe had a different? You had a different agenda or something.
I don't really know yet, just because I haven't.
Maybe you're just sad.
No, I'm not sad. I'm definitely not sad. I guess that's like the one thing that like gets so frustrating with, not frustrating, but like about tracking athletes. Like, as much as I love the tracker, I loathe it.
Oh.
Its whole existence. Just because you're left. Like, you just have no idea like what's actually going on. Is it a faster pace because it's a downhill? Is it a slower pace because it's undulating terrain? Is it windy? Is it rainy? Are they feeling great? Are they feeling bad? Or do they have a flat tire? Are they having GI issues? Do they just make a porta potty stop? Are they having a little niggle of an injury? Or are they just having a really bad day?
Yeah.
You just have to just sit there and guess.
Well, a lot of times you have people on the ground, but sometimes it's not possible.
But when you don't, it's just not possible. And so, no, I don't think that. I think coaches take two. You either will have one. You have one kind of coach or the other, or you can be one kind of coach or the other. And being a teacher is very much like a coach, and vice versa, where the athlete is a student. But if you teach a class and in your class, the group of students don't do very well, or some do great and some don't do good, then you'll have some teachers / coaches that will blame the students for not preparing the way that they should, or they should have done better. And then the other side, you may have the coach, which I feel like I'm definitely that way, and your first reaction is, okay, well, maybe I didn't prepare well enough. Maybe or maybe I did, or maybe my test, or maybe like the groundwork that I laid for the test was too difficult, or it wasn't on point. You really just never know, and it usually takes a really good athlete debrief to really kind of figure that out. And I haven't even had that yet, so yeah. I don't really know. But you just kind of and I had some other great, really great results, and they were all good. It's just I think as a coach, you're always trying to find a better way to do things, and figure it out. And I just really want my athletes to be as best prepared and do the best that they want to do. And so I think that's just coaching.
Yeah. Don't be too hard on yourself, buddy.
I'm gonna give myself.
I know.
And tomorrow I'm gonna snap back out of it.
Yeah, you'll be right back out of it.
Yeah.
When you said that about teaching, I've taught a little bit here and there of different little things, and it's really is the place where you learn the most too, and in teaching is really learning. It forces you to kind of articulate your thoughts and So I would imagine you learn a ton from your athletes on these debriefings and things like that.
Yeah, it's very enlightening. To kind of figure out, because I mean, honestly, you never know if it's a bad day, if it was a bad plan. It could have been the perfect training, but if you laid out like, a too aggressive of a race plan, you could screw it up, and put them in a difficult, put them more on a defensive side than an offensive side, and so it's just you honestly you just never know until you actually have one, and I haven't had two of them yet, but your mind's always working. I mean, you're always trying to find a better way, but it's always important to not just totally, you never want to totally erase the chalkboard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you never want to just start from scratch. You just want to take little bits and pieces, because I think athletes do this too. They get to a point where like, oh, it's none of it's working. I'm just going to totally start over, or I'm gonna change coaches, or I'm gonna change training philosophies, and I'm gonna do all this and do it totally. And like, that's usually not the best thing. It's things take a long time, and coaching is the same way. Like, you just don't need to, because you have a few, like you question yourself. You should always question yourself, because if you're not, then you're not learning, and you're not trying to find better ways, and you're not trying to, figure things out. And kind of like, I think I mentioned this on the last podcast, it's, and the Ironman is, or a 70.3 or any race, the answer is a finish with a great result, but the way that you get there is totally different for every single athlete. And sometimes it's really, and admittedly so, like sometimes it's really, really easy for me to figure out what works best for an athlete. And then sometimes it's really, really difficult to figure out what works best for an athlete, because you also shouldn't just assume just because they had like a great race and had like a monster PR, it doesn't necessarily mean you did it the best. And you may have done it just really good, but you should always kind of be looking and for nuances and things that work better. And obviously you can't figure that out unless you spend a lot of time together. Like you're not in it for 3 months, you're in it for a year, or more is when you start to see, major gains. But you should always be kind of looking and you should just always be focused on paying attention. And that's the best way to figure it out. But it's always, that's why coaching is so great, and why it's so frustrating sometimes, that you're always trying to kind of figure out a better way to do things that's better for your athletes.
Well, I hate to bring up that metaphor for life, but that's kind of what it is. You're always
no, I get it, man. I know.
That's what I always liked about you from the beginning, as you started coaching me back in 2013, was how you kind of, for lack of a better word, sort of embraced my idiosyncrasies and my personal quest. It was almost like you had that same looking for different ways, and I had that same. I mean, I was really intense with that, and I think most triathletes are that way. They're always kind of in their heads and sort of like wanting, I don't know how many athletes you have that are sort of just, they just follow the ship, let's just do what exactly, because everybody's always kind of looking for like, hey, this felt good to me today. Can we do more of these? Or this, I feel like this is making a difference, can we do some of this, or maybe not, whatever. So, yeah, I think that's important, to have a good open communication channel and, just really know what's going on, because coaching's so much in the mind too. And you can't just start laying out training plans and just because you follow them, whatever. But
you always got to be work. It's just you have to pay attention, and just because let's say you have two athletes that respond okay to a certain type of stimulus, and the other one doesn't. You doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's right, just means it's specific.
Yeah.
To that person. Just like if you have, 3 or 4 athletes who, struggled with seeing the results during a specific training cycle, and you try 2 different things with a set, and you try 2 other things, and the 2 show great improvement, the other ones don't, doesn't mean it's going to work for all 4 if you just cut and paste. Like there's definitely some specific, principles and things that you need to accomplish and markers that you need to have met in order to kind of go, on to the next, phase that you really need to see. But, and you should start there. But the rest is all in the details.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can, like you see those, if you go to like an art museum or something, you're really, really far away and you see this like beautiful painting, and then you get up really, really, really close to it, and it's made of like just dots,
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. And like that's what it's like to like create a training plan.
Yeah.
Like from a distance, you're like, it's all smooth and laid out. And then you walk close and like, oh, like this person actually took like 100,000 tiny dots to create this layout, but you wouldn't see it if you were like looking from far away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of how it is. But yeah, I'll just, in a little bit of funk, I'm sure I'm being too hard on myself, but that's how it goes.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people maybe realize it. As the way you coach is that you're constantly adjusting. I mean, you don't put a plan in Training Peaks and just let it roll out. And, this is just, proven sauce that we, put on every dish. And you're adjusting weekly and often even daily sometimes, right? Depending on how burnout, or like somebody's maybe a little injured, or...
Definitely daily if it needs to.
Yeah.
Whether it's removing, which a lot, it's 9 times out of 10, it's removing a workout. Like I read a comment from Kathleen last week, and she said, she didn't say this, I think one of the questions that we'll get to here in a little bit when we go back for the questions from the Facebook thing was, how do you look at the do you look at the performance management chart on Training Peaks, and how many points should a person lose during their 70.3 taper week? And I just said I don't use that because I'm not a huge fan of it, because I think it kind of lets you coach on autopilot, where you're just looking at those numbers and you're not listening. And I've read a lot of books, and the coaches that I follow the most say the greatest training tool you can ever have is paying attention. And that's why when I tell athletes when I work with them, and I say, while seeing the training is great, if you have time, and I get it, not every athlete has time to leave comments because they're super busy, but it's helpful for me to read a book that has an illustration and text, so I can see the whole picture. And she had her swim looked great, but she had a run later on that afternoon, and then the next day I had her doing a split run in the middle of the week, and her comment wasn't negative, but I could sense that she was fatigued, and so I deleted it. The run that was later on this day on a Tuesday, and said, hey, and commented on her swim and said, hey, just, I took the run away. And of course, typical athlete, oh, I was really looking forward to running again. And I wanted to be like, well, that's not what you said in your previous comment, because you said how tired you were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the next day she ran the one, she was like, yeah, obviously taking away that run was a good thing. So yeah, it's about monitoring and listening. And then, obviously, and then you have things that happen like, hey, public service announcement, wear your freaking helmets.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where you go or what you're doing, or you're going 2 miles away or you're going 200 miles away, wear your helmets. I had 2 athletes go down this weekend. Reve went down on some gravel, and then I saw Wes Keene went down over his handlebars hitting a pothole. Both saved by their helmet.
Yeah, that's
they would have been in real bad shape. Road rash is one thing, but anytime your head hits the pavement, so always wear your helmets, and always take care of yourself, even when you don't think it's necessary. It's too close. That's like say about car wrecks. Most of them happen between the first 2 miles from your doorstep or something like that.
Oh yeah. Back before we get off of what we were just talking about, I have a question or observation. One of the questions that we had asked, well, people are like, last week when it's when do you decide if you want to do another race or whatever, and you mentioned it earlier, but you always have 24 hours. You got to sit on your race for at least 24 hours before you even start thinking about doing something else or adding something to your schedule or whatever the case may be, because of all the emotions and the whatnot from finishing any race. And so you have to be relaxed and calm on that. But it occurred to me that in a way that happens almost daily for you, but because I'm sure that there can be overreactions or underreactions or whatever you want to call them based on workouts too, so it's like every day people, maybe somebody gets done with a run and they just hate running all of a sudden, but it's right afterwards, and then maybe it makes that comment to you, and then you have to be able to navigate like, well, is this just because they're in a bad mood or because they had a bad day or because whatever the case may be, and you can't let that necessarily take you off track either, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance, and I think that was another one of the questions we had was, when do you give out tough love, or when are you over complimentary or whatever, and for an athlete, and it kind of falls in the same bucket of day-to-day thing, and while I'm not really a fan of either. I don't get the tough love. I think it's an oxymoron. I don't understand it.
You gave me tough love.
Yeah, but that wasn't love. That was just that's. I think when people say tough love, what they mean to say is accountability.
Oh, okay.
I definitely give accountability. But I think part of when you coach and your relationship with your athletes is that you shouldn't have to give that really at all much ever, to be totally honest with you. In that, you get athletes, you work with athletes, you show them a way, or they're surrounded by a good team like we have, and so they're just consistent. So they hold themselves accountable, and then when they don't, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, you suck, you need to get to work, and they yell and scream, because I think that's childish and 40 years ago effectiveness. And same for the telling a person that they crushed it or they did great every single day of the week, because that's just not true either. I think there's a happy medium. I think that the one of the best things you can do is just, and I'm sure this isn't great and not everybody likes this, but I think it's just acknowledging that they got the work done. Because not every day is going to be great. Listen, we have one worst run and one best run. Everything else is in between. Everything else is just another run. And so I think that, they need, but, every once in a while you need to say it, and you need to recognize when they do, knock it out of the park. And for me, it's, I think not so much as I'm giving you a huge pat on the back or a slap on the rear. It's more like, I see what you're doing and I'm paying attention. Your hard work, obviously, you did it already, because most of the time they'll comment on it anyway and say how great they felt, but sometimes they don't see specific things. But tough love isn't necessarily my thing. Neither is the everyday participation medal and trophy thing either. It's more of hopefully a really well-rounded relationship. But sometimes, and I'm not very good at sugarcoating things. I mean, I had to have a very, I even started it off with, I'm not going to sugarcoat things for you. And then followed up with a couple paragraphs, but it's not tough love. It's just reality, and it's just honesty is what it is, and I think if you're always honest, whether they want to hear it or not, then you don't really find yourself in either one of those categories. And if they really need, to be totally honest with you, most athletes, when they reach out to me, they don't need tough love, or they don't need a huge pat on the back, because it's not even about training. They've had a really bad day at work, their job sucks, the relationship is, on the fritz, or it's the opposite. They got a job and they got a raise, or getting married, or their wife is expecting, or whatever it is. So like, it's just, it's most of my athletes don't need that. I don't give it out freely anyway, just because I don't think that's, the reward punishment system is overrated. Because I think you establish that, everything you do gets either a punishment or a reward, not just, it's totally 180 degrees from the detachment of the outcome philosophy.
Yeah,
you work hard, you do the best you can, everything else just kind of happens. Not, you need to do this or you must do that, or like, we're all adults, we work together and it's a relationship. It's not, I don't work for them. They don't work for me. We work together.
Yeah. That's
how it should be.
That becomes kind of a search for a high and a low, and as a person, it's kind of this, instead of the real goal, which is, contentment and feeling good about what you're doing and having the right direction, all these sorts of things. The real reason why you get in, because you're not like coaching, Olympic athletes where they have one, goal out of you. You're trying to help them be, more well-rounded people and hit all types of goals in the bigger scope of things versus it's almost like mild gossip when, when you're trying to get when you're high and you want to get like a reinforcement or something like that, you're just looking for affirmation of your current state instead of really going towards where you want to go. And anyway, I'm sorry you're in a funk, and I think I really maybe know the real reason. It was is it my race?
You screwed me.
I screwed you.
I've been in a funk ever since Saturday morning.
Oh, I will never do that again.
Go ahead.
Declare Podium.
Lay it out there for the rest of the listeners.
Well, I mean, I did it. I did declare Podium with a caveat, and
I can feel the tread on your shoes being worn down from all the backtracking you're about to do.
I raced the Music City Olympic Triathlon this weekend, and I declared Podium if I had a swim of 28 minutes or less. And, of course, I didn't. And I had a lot of, I'm kind of a mess, as you know. Sometimes.
I wouldn't say you're kind of a mess. I mean, sometimes you're cluttered. I wouldn't say that you're a mess.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, I'm just saying that it was just so weird going in because I was like, well, actually, honestly, when I got onto the pier and I saw the course, I knew I wasn't going sub 28 on that thing, man, that swim course.
It's a hard swim course.
Yeah.
You can't not on it. Like, you just can't. Like,
I mean,
that's why they don't do it that way in Chattanooga. You can't have a river swim and make it into a triangle, or where you have to go at any point against the current and have it be an easy swim. That's just not how it works.
Well, I mean, I did feel a little bit better when I saw some really good swimmers that are super consistent, and they were like 24,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, because the hard part for me was that it went upstream for 500, and then it went across stream. It was more of a box. Well, no, I guess it was, yeah. But when they took you across stream, they didn't let you, kind of hang in the channel and maybe get some of that current. They took you way to the side where, I mean, the whole downstream portion was, maybe you had to stay to the left of the buoys, and it was probably 20 yards off of shore. Mm-hmm. So we were way over to the side, and that's a snaky part of the river, so there really wasn't any current. I didn't feel much current going up against the river either because we were tight on that shore, but regardless, it was still a tough swim. It was non-wetsuit, and I don't know. So, but the funny part was I told you I was gonna make my decision after I got out of the water on Ohio, like how I felt about the swim. Because if I would have felt good getting out of the water and felt like I had my swim down, I was thinking about doing Ohio. But I made that Ohio decision about 500 yards from shore. I was like, no way. So anyway, I
Didn't happen. Just off the podium.
just off the podium. If I would have got, shoot, I think I would have cut 3 minutes off my swim. I would have been the podium. But I regrouped and had a good ride and had a good run. And I was real happy with I was happy with my ride because it was a fairly hilly ride, and I was pretty strong the whole way in my big gears. Even they weren't huge climbers, but they were, long, slow climbs, and I just felt really strong on that. But ultimately, the test was like, what's my 10:17 running gonna do here? And I hadn't been doing much speed type work. I've just been real consistent on running slower and more often, and just feeling good about it. And I had really one goal. I wasn't going out to just destroy the run. I wanted to start, at a pretty decent clip, and then just see if I could pick it up the last mile or two. And that's exactly what happened. And didn't. That's not typically how I would race an Olympic. I would have went after it I'm still training, and I'm looking at the big goal. And good news is I was a little fatigued that day. I had to ride. I rode my bike in the morning with all my gear and a backpack, and then you get done with the race, and that's when you realize you got to ride home. It was 7 miles. That was by far the hardest part of the day, because I had that all that crap on my back, and I'm riding back through the Greenway. Man, that was, my back was killing. It was just brutal. I don't know, because I'd sat around for a while too. So, But anyway, I wasn't sore the next day, and I felt a little fatigued in the most of the day. And then last night I started getting energy, as you know, and did a video and just did a new video for the podcast, and that's where I'm at. But I'm ready to really zone in on Louisville now.
Yeah, and you definitely made the decision, as I got yesterday in a text, that you're not doing Ohio, which we will be up at this coming weekend. It's on Sunday, July 29th, in the beautiful, quaint city of Delaware, Ohio, home of Ohio Wrestling, which I think I recall Ken saying was like one of, if not the oldest college football stadiums in America.
Yeah, I think he did say that.
Yeah, I think he did say that.
Selby Field or something?
Yes, Selby Field. So we will be up there we'll get up there sometime on Thursday. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody racing. If you raced this last weekend, hope it went well. We'd love to hear about it. We do get some posts in our closed group, which is Crushing Iron Group on Facebook, if you want to be part of the conversation. And if for some reason somebody spammed you and you clicked on this link without knowing what it is in fact the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast. We come to you on Mondays and Thursdays, every Monday and Thursday for what will be almost 2 years here in October. And we also have a website, crushingiron.com, where you can go to more information on the podcast itself, the blog, our training camps, videos, some of the best tribute videos for races like Chattanooga, Wisconsin, Louisville. If you're doing any of those races, they're awesome videos. As you probably have already seen if you've done any research or watch any videos on those races. They're always up kind of on the top, sometimes top 1 or 2, if not top 5 videos for those Ironman races. And then you can get also more information on training and coaching. If you have any questions, you can go there. But this is going to be part 2 of our questions from the closed group. We will definitely not get to them all again today, but we will do our best. And if we don't get to them all today, we'll probably do our best to finish them off either for this Thursday's podcast, which will either be pre-recorded on Wednesday or will be coming to you from the road on our way north to Columbus, Ohio.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped too. Where did we start? Do you have your list pulled up?
I do have my list pulled up.
Look at you. I think the last one we covered was from Stuart Rogers, because he had the first 28 questions that we covered. But no, I think the last one we covered was from Ross, and that was, when's the right time to start complaining. No, his was should I or shouldn't I do this race, and that was the last one we covered.
That's what we referenced a little bit earlier today.
Yep. So I think Adam Embry had a great one. What is the smallest change an athlete could make in each discipline that would result in the largest gain? What little thing is holding you back? And my answer for all three would kind of be anticlimactic, but it would just be consistency. If you got 7 days in a week, and if you find yourself not working out 3 of those days of the week, then stop asking what little thing you could change, or what thing you should buy, or what's this data metric say, because you're not getting a good picture, and you're not going to be nearly as efficient and as solid and as going to be able to perform nearly as well if you're not being consistent. And that is, I would say, consistency / resting because you need to rest, not taking the day off because you're lazy. Which is super common.
I wish I could remember who this woman was. I think it was the New York City Marathon winner. And does this ring a bell to you? With that, they asked kind of about her. She kind of, maybe was it the one that came out of nowhere or something? And
it was one of the last two. It was either they asked Shalane Flanagan or I think
what her training plan was, and she just said, "I just run a lot," and I think she inferred that she runs they're like, what kind of pace? She goes, I don't know. I just run. And, it was kind of like inferring that she was running to how she felt kind of thing a lot. And she's just getting out there. I mean, to me, that always dovetails on that consistency thing, is that, she wasn't out there doing track work all the time or whatever. She was just out there running. And I mean, I think it was the New York City Marathon that she won. And everybody was just kind of baffled by her approach to it. And I think that kind of thing just goes a long way in, amateur triathlon. It's like, man, just start doing stuff. You don't have to have every workout be just dialed in and, crush every single thing and nail it to the screws. Just kind of get out there and do stuff. And it's like we always talk about. It's like 90% of the time, the hardest thing is getting out the door. So, and once you get out there, maybe 20 minutes into anything, your whole perspective changes.
Yep. And
so, it does sound a little bit bland, but consistency of getting, putting on the shoes and just keeping it going. It's the momentum thing for me is always the key. It's like how many times you're going to pick it back up. It's always like, damn, I haven't swam in 2 weeks. Now I got to, you know what I mean? That is my number one nemesis sometimes. It's like, well, now I got to swim a lot because I got to pick up. It's like you feel like you're always playing catch up. But it's sort of like studying for a test. Just study a little bit each day, and that stuff sinks in. And
just do your homework.
Instead of cramming.
Do your homework, take care of the pop quizzes, and the test won't be that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, consistency is where you earn days off. I spoke to an athlete on the phone yesterday who was just having a rough time. I was like, she was just like, I just don't have the energy. And this is a topic one of the day, but so many people say, I just don't have any motivation today. I'm like, well, it takes energy to have motivation.
Yeah.
And so if you're super tired and you haven't gotten a lot of sleep, or your life is super stressful, then all of your energy is going somewhere else. Like your body's, I hate to break it to you guys, but unfortunately your body's first thought isn't, okay, I've got this amount of energy, I've got to warehouse it for my training session today. No. It's going to go to life circumstances and work and family and all these other stressors, and then training is basically like, oh, that's right, I forgot you had that today, but sorry, I'm allowed. So it's hard. You can't, don't beat yourself up if you find yourself in what feels like lacking in motivation, when in reality it's just you're low on energy. And nobody has motivation when they're super lethargic and low on energy. But this athlete's having, she's like, I just don't want to run today. All I want to do is go mindlessly go somewhere and just go see a movie by myself. I said, go do it. Go watch a movie by yourself. Don't run today. Because this athlete has basically taken 4 days off in like 4 months.
That's not much.
So a day off for this athlete isn't going to affect anything negatively. In fact, the days that she chooses to take them are because she truly feels like that's what needs to happen, not just because I'll just take the day off. And some athletes just find excuses to train or to not work out or don't pro diet. Then this you miss 3 or 4 days of workouts a week, and there is no magic pill. There is no this. It's all about consistency and earning your days off and taking them when you actually truly feel like your body needs them is what holds a lot of people back.
Yeah, she probably left that movie theater in the mood to run, which is a win.
Probably. I haven't checked yet to see if she did or not, but I hope.
Well, she maybe didn't, but I mean, it's like looking forward to it. If you can do something to kind of just take you from the last thing I want to do is run to later in the day feeling like, what, I do feel like running now. That is like a win, because if you go out and run when you don't want to, that could just dig a deeper hole.
Yep.
And so it's like balancing that kind of stuff. We'll move on to Ross. Ross has another question. Ross Cavenberger, friend of the podcast, longtime friend, and podcast guest.
Yep. Great podcast.
Great podcast. Turning to triathlon when life turns on you, I think is the name of that. If you want to go back in the archives, I can't remember the number off my head. I think I know the answer to this, and the question is, when's the right time to start planning for next season? And I'm pretty sure that's right after your race, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to. This is a tough one to navigate, just because, it's not realistic with specific races or with people's schedules in life to wait until their last race of the year in September or October and then think, all right, well, now I'm going to plan for next year. And there's a early season 70.3 they want to do that's already sold out. Or and so in terms of race planning, you kind of have to do it 8 to 12 months in advance. But you just need to give yourself an idea, or sign up. Like this last week, I've gotten like a million emails or texts about, all right, well, should I do this race? 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 That's coming up, or it's about to open. Should I do it? I'm like, well, if you want to do it, do it. And we can pick the rest of it around it. Like, ideally, that's the part of the race planning. I get it, just because people have to ask off. People have to allocate time and their family and work things around. They know what's going to work best with schedule. So sometimes they have to plan a year in a way. Having said that, and it kind of goes into the next question from Kelly Powers. It's like, and what is the perfect race calendar? Does it have to go in order by distance, and where does the camp best fit and benefit? There's 16 different layouts to a calendar that might work best for somebody, and a lot of times it all starts with life and availability. Like for parents who have kids, like, when's the best time of year for you to do your biggest races? Well, the summertime, because your kids are out of school. And some people don't even think about that, because it's like, I got to ask off and take my kids out of school, then I got to do this. For some parents, it's the opposite, because their kids are in like constant swim team, baseball, soccer, bam, 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 bam. And so they're just like, I can't get away. My weekends are full because I'm doing swim team and soccer and baseball, and so I don't have enough time to train, And so that's also something to think about. But those, like, we like sometimes fail to like recognize the obvious. It's like, while this race may look great and the thought of signing up is exhilarating, the reality of what it's going to take to train for it isn't even close to that. And so a lot of it's based on the person, whether you're in, and I know Kelly is a school teacher. So for her, it's looking at, all right, well, maybe when is spring break? And I know she has kids too. She travels some and they do sports. And so it's like, it's piecing things together, and then you really have to make a decision. Do I pick a race that might not be as appealing or exciting? Like maybe the race venue isn't as exciting, as you want it to be, but it falls into a time frame to where you're going to have uninterrupted training for a specific amount of time that you can totally focus on. And obviously, outside of like some life event, and you realize and you recognize this is my best chance to execute a race the best that I can. Versus, okay, I know it's gonna kind of be, given, touch and go here for 6 to 8 weeks because, so and so's got soccer tournaments and so and so's got baseball, and I know we're going out of town on a family trip, but I think I can make it work, and because this race is really exciting, and so it's all give and take on what you want to and what you need to prioritize the best, and what actually fits in best for reality, because sometimes, and most oftentimes, like your first thought is wrong, because it's clouded, and it's not objective. You need to kind of strip back the layers and think about it. And like I had an athlete yesterday that texted me, "Hey, I really want to do Triathlon 7.3 next year. It opens on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, but I know I'm gonna have a foot surgery in like November, I think, or December, and I'll be out, for this amount of time, and then I won't be able to swim for this amount of time. Should I do it?" My first answer was no. Because why sacrifice your whole year on trying to rush back from something like that? It's like, so while it's exciting and you don't want to miss it because it's a team event or you love the venue, it's like, well, think about the rest of your year. It's tough, and it's totally different. One of the best things I could say is usually the best layout for an athlete is, early season short course followed by late season long course. Just spend as much as you can of the year getting faster and faster and faster and stronger and stronger and stronger, and spend all your time doing that. And then the very end of the year, decide to go big. Because one of the biggest things you're going to see, and I had Erica texted me this like after Louisville this last year. It's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing Ironman Texas. Louisville is October, so Texas is in April. So we're looking at like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so we're going to recover, and then we're going to basically go right back into, Ironman training. And let's not forget, it's winter. So you're going to tell me that you're actually going to want to be sitting on your trainer for 3 hours, 4 hours, and no outside rides and treadmill runs, and going to swim and it's 30 degrees and dark outside at 6 o'clock in the morning. No, I think that's a bad idea. Ultimately, obviously, she decided not to do it, but it's like we do, just like everything in life. You get swept up and caught up in excitement, and then you end up having buyer's remorse. Mm-hmm. Because you realize that it's just not the best idea.
I think that sort of relates to this next question I picked here from Justin Lester. How do you know when the right time is to move up to the next race distance, and what should you look for? If you're doing an Ironman and, there really is not much of a next level or whatever, but maybe like doing something like Erica was thinking about doing as a next level, it's sort of like throwing it back in there about 6 months later. But how do you know, if you're kind of used to doing sprints and ollies or something like that, or how do you make that call, man? I mean, is that
if you're happy and you feel like you've got more?
Okay.
I mean, it is that simple. Like, if you can happily, and when I mean happy, I mean you're happy, wife is happy, or husband's happy, family's happy with your current training, or they're not already annoyed, then it's time to approach, okay, well, how many more hours is it going to take if I move up a distance? And what's that going to look like? Because again, for most people, the most exciting part of the whole journey is paying $800 to do a full.
Yeah.
After that, it's like, oh shit, now I got to train. Now I got inconveniences. Now I got to work around my schedule. Now I'm going to be stressed because I'm missing things. Now I got like family vacations and weekends, and all I'm going to be thinking about is like, why can't I train? Why am I not training? I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like any fun. It really is. It's availability. Like, look at your life, because your training should replicate this. And you find this oftentimes with athletes, in that athletes who sign up for a race when their life is basically saying, oh, hell no. Like, we ain't got time for this. But you do it anyway. Now that same athlete is the one who tries to fit life around training, not training around life. And the same thing could be said for racing. You want to plan your races, or the distance, or the amount of training volume it's going to take. You want to plan that. You want to plan that around life. You know, and I have a lot of respect for athletes that take this like long-term approach and think, you know what, either I got to do it this year because I know we're going to have a baby next year and it won't be possible or feasible, or just like showing like that mindfulness and that awareness of like how much it does take away, and not wanting to do it, or, you know, I'm going to wait 2 more years to do this because my high schooler is going to be out of the way. Not out of the way, but my high schooler is going away to college. I mean, well, maybe for some parents, but it's like my kid is going to be going off in college, so like that frees up like a whole different like side of things. Or on the flip side, you have an athlete like that I have right now who's taking a break because her daughter is a senior. And like, she's never going to have these moments back again. It doesn't want to be like, have that like being torn between going to do a long ride or missing a swim meet. You know, like, you're not going to get these back. You know, and so let's just remove the internal debate and the guilt or the resentment or whatever it is, and just like, this is the only time that your daughter's going to be a senior in high school. These are all of her last swim meets. This is the last summer you're going to get before they go off to college or do this, that. So I think that's probably important to soak in and take, you know? And so it's just awareness of life and the demands of it. And then on the flip side, it's going into it with the understanding of, and I'm going back and forth with an athlete like this right now. It's like, understanding that we all know in life, and even though we forget it, like, every single day of our life is totally different. One day is super stressful, one day is different, and we have, as much as we hate to admit it, we have absolutely zero control over basically everything. But then as soon as we sign up for a race, we act like we are God. And we have control over everything else that's going to happen for the next 364 days until our big event. We're going to have a stable job. We're never going to get sick. We're not going to get hurt. Our family's going to be great. Everything's going to go perfect, and I can train 16 hours a week for the whole year and be done. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, man, this is not what I told myself was going to happen. You know, and so you have to have an understanding that things are going to change. And that is okay, because that is life. And life rules. Like, our hobby in triathlon is a very, very distant second. Like, I remember when the year after at Louisville, you and me, and like, there's a bunch of us that signed up for Chattanooga, like the day it opened for registration. And I think I was working at a restaurant, and this is, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago, and we all signed up. And I never in a million years would have imagined that in like 2 months, Allie and I would have picked up and moved to Kansas City and taken a different job. you know, and I remember because we moved, and then I got to Kansas City. The next week I went and did Muncie and got shingles. It came back, and I was working a new job that was really demanding. I was trying to move up with a quickness. It was in a new city and all these kind of things, all these other kind of stressors. And ultimately, after Muncie and the shingles, I was like, you know what? Like, as much as I want to, it just doesn't. I just can't. It just doesn't make sense to force feed the Chattanooga. And so I ultimately made the decision to just not do it. And so it's like, you always have to have that, like, understanding, and I think it's something that's helpful to have all the time, that like even if your number one priority is triathlon, it's like way down on like the hundreds and hundreds of thousands like down the list from like the order of life. Like in what in what the universe or God or whoever it is or whatever it is believe in like finds that's important. So just because it's number one in your life doesn't mean every day that you wake up things aren't going to alter it to basically put it so far on the back burner it's not even in the same kitchen. And you just got to have the understanding that that's going to happen and that that's okay. Because again, like this is a hobby and it's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to make the rest of your life like more stressful. It's supposed to relieve the stress.
Yeah. And I'm reading this book, Search for the Meaning of Life, right now. And in kind of the intro area, it talks about, they're exploring the galaxy and, potentially how many societies or planets could be out there and stars and all that sort of stuff. And they took the longest shot possible, like conservative estimate, and they say it's very likely that there could be 100 million planets like Earth in the universe. So that kind of makes that little thing. I was thinking about that a little bit this weekend. About it's like you get wrapped up in so much stuff, in these little races or whatever the case is, and it's kind of like a grounding force, man, to start thinking about. Man, it's like this is such a little piece of the puzzle.
Oh God. And they probably already have like way farther intelligence than we do. They're probably looking down on us with satellites thinking, what are these other humans doing running around in these spandex tri-outfits with these funny looking alien helmets, and what are they doing with their lives? It's like,
no kidding, man.
But it is. It's just like there's so many. It is. We always forget like everything. I learned this lesson a long time ago. It's like, everything always seems bigger in your world. Yeah. Like your Facebook feed is filled with triathlon because your friends do it. And obviously that's what Facebook wants you to see is more things that you like because you get on it more often. But, and you think it's like so big, but then like you step outside your front door and walk down your street and nobody has any idea. They'd be like, what kind of bike is that? Yeah. And then you try to explain it to them. They're like walk away because they don't give a shit. It's like, if you want to, unless you live, like it's in a super sporty town, but I guarantee you if I walk down my street, with my bike, A, nobody would care, or B, an old man would stop me and then want to tell me a story about his like 1976 Le Mans. Yeah. And and they probably see me doing story and thinking, oh, look at that guy trying to shed his dad bod. They don't probably have no idea what else I'm doing or trying to train for. So like, yeah, just remember that. As big of a deal as we make it or that we want it to be, it's in the scheme of things. It's not. It's some things have a great effect, and it is a great effect, but it's what you do. It's not. It's what you do with like your training that sets the good examples and does good things. It's not. It's not the name of what we do, which is triathlon.
Yeah. Here's a good question for you. Would you train if you didn't have any races?
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that kind of becomes the ultimate question sometimes.
Yeah, and I have athletes like that too. That like, they're like, I don't even like racing is almost their least favorite part, because they stress about it a little bit. But they would train year round because that's how much they love it. And there's no like, it's not a coincidence that they're some of the highest performing. It's because they just love to work. That's it. They just love to work. And they love to try to get better, and they love what it does for them, and they've seen the results. And I get it, because sometimes it's hard for athletes to think that that's possible because they've had a totally different experience. And so I think you have to experience the positive aspects of just working hard for something and always feeling like you have. I mean, that's it. Like, I think I said this to Adam. Embry, who has a couple questions in here, and he just did with Muncie, and I think he PR'd by like 52 minutes. But he was super frustrated about his nutrition plan and how some things didn't go right or whatever. And he was like, I just, like we always do, we second guess everything, after a race, and it's always negative, it's never positive. And I was just like, I was like, well, what you're going to do is you're going to get back to work, because that's what we do. Because there's always work to be done. Like, you're never, like, there is one best triathlete in the world, and then there was one worst triathlete in the world, and the rest of us just fall in between. And so we are always working. Hopefully, you're always just wanting to work to get better. And we might say that it's because we want to PR at this or do this or that, but most of the time it's just because we like the way it makes us feel, and we like the structure, and we like what it does for our life, and we like that it keeps us healthy, and we like that we've seen changes in our body and mentally and emotionally, and like what it does for friendships and stuff like that. So we can say it's for the PR or the whatever, but the other stuff is much more long lasting and is better on the experience level.
Yeah, no, I want to throw this out there before we sign off. We were talking a lot about planning next year and stuff like that. And did I see Chattanooga 70.3 just went on sale?
I think Tuesday.
Okay, so, I mean, I think that race, does it sell out?
It takes a little bit.
It takes a little bit, but that is one of our team races.
I mean, if we push it, it'll sell out.
That's true.
Yeah.
It is, and we are pushing it because it is one of our team races for next year, so... me, I'm not, I'm not much on that planning thing like that too much, out a year or whatever. But I think that that we know specifically we're doing that one. What is it? Tri Louisville and Ironman Wisconsin next year. So, you just never know. Sometimes, for whatever reason, some of these races like go pretty quick. And then some that you think are going to go quick just stay open. Like Wisconsin, I think, still open.
Yeah.
Which just blows my mind.
It's depressing.
Yeah, kind of is.
But I will say that, and this is more, I think, of just the triathletes speaking, is that there are a lot of other fulls that are quickly selling out now, quicker than they have been in the past.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In the past few years, so I think that...
there doesn't seem like a lot of rhyme or reason behind what's going on. It's tough to figure out.
Yep, I agree.
But maybe we'll get to the bottom of it.
Man, we always try.
We always try. Try.
Well, stop.
I'm trying.
Yeah. God bless America. I knew you were going there.
I knew you knew I was going there. Man, that is fun.
Yes. Fun.
All right. Closed Facebook group. Search Crushing Iron Group. We're going to Ohio. Everything else is at...
excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I'm excited to watch you guys race.
Be fun.
Feel like I won't bring my bike. I'll just throw in a little run block while I'm up there. Make some videos.
There you go.
Show everybody what's going on in Delaware.
Hi.
I'll have a little
Delaware.
small town video. We'll do a little Chamber of Commerce thing for them while we're there.
Perfect. Yes.
Get people. It'll be the hottest new city in Ohio.
That's right. That's how we do it.
Ohio Wesleyan. Coaching information's at crushingiron.com, along with swim analysis, which I might just sign up for today.
Price increase.
What else is on that website?
There's plenty.
Plenty of stuff.
Yeah, plenty of stuff. Check it out, crushingiron.com.
One quick thing.
Excuse me.
New feature I put on there just to see what would happen. But people can go to the website, go to the sidebar. Not any page, but the home page will have a sidebar that says click here and you can leave a message or ask a question. And we did have someone ask a question. And here it is.
Okay, let's let it rip.
Hey, just really absolutely love the podcast, guys. It's fantastic, and I've gotten a lot of great advice from it, and it's really helped out. So I appreciate it. I guess the only question I have is, how did you guys meet and decide to start doing a podcast together?
I remember exactly how we met. I remember where we were.
I do too. I referenced this in my road to Louisville yesterday because I was cleaning
did you?
I was cleaning up my closet and I found the jacket.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know why, but I decided to take on like these 5 misfits of triathlon with like a 30+ year age range differential between the youngest and the oldest. And I'm set to meet them for what is going to be the second time because I totally bailed on the first time. And we met at Calypso Cafe in East Nashville. And maybe the one and only time in the 5 years that I've known him, Mike was the first person to show up early. Since then, he's either been barely on time or way late. And we sat there, and he showed up on this motorcycle with a leather jacket, and I'm thinking, I am totally screwed. And
First time we met.
And so we coached him, and then I think what 3+ years, a little over 3+ years later, we were I think we had talked about it for a little bit. But I was living in Kansas City, and you were obviously in Nashville, and thinking, hey, I wonder what we could do, or maybe we should just start like recording our conversations or whatever. And next thing we know, we launched our podcast.
Yeah. I think I want to say I was in Wisconsin. I was hanging out at my parents' house, and I was just up like in my old bedroom. And that was the first podcast, I think, or I feel like I don't know. Anyway, yeah, and somehow, and I thank God for this all the time, we said, hey, let's do 2 a week. I mean, like from the get-go.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, that was cool, and we, went through that kind of growing pain of like, how do we do a podcast? And we were always doing research and trying to come up with, all these, outlines and all that kind of stuff. And it started to get a little dicey as far as keeping them going. But we made a commitment to do twice a week, Monday and Thursday, and stuck with it. And we haven't, looked back. And it was just the best thing, we ever did, because I think that, speaking of consistency, our reoccurring theme, that pretty much did it. And honestly, and I said this on I'm doing a Road to Ironman Louisville live video series on YouTube. I said this yesterday that, we have a podcast tomorrow, and I can honestly say that, in the beginning it was a little stressful, because we were kind of feeling our way out, but, maybe after the first couple months, I've looked forward to every single podcast. I mean, it's like something I really enjoy doing. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's never a, burden. So, and I think that obviously has led to the consistency. And I think there's a lesson in there with training somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. Just commit.
But keep it fun, and keep it in a place where you can enjoy what's ahead. Because if it starts seeming like a burden and you're trying to overkill or overdo something, just do what you do, and people, like, some people probably hate it, but some people love the podcast. So it is what we are.
Some people for sure definitely hate it. I mean, I don't think and I'm perfectly okay with it. I could care less.
I know. And that's really I say that's like the, when we had camp here and Sean and DJ were in town, they sat me down for an interview that I haven't figured out how to use yet, but that was one of the things. They kind of grilled me on a bunch of stuff, and I think that's one of the things that has been almost the best benefit from the podcast, is that I used to really care about, remember like early on we were getting like kind of like testy about some, at least I was, about some negative feedback here and there and stuff like that, and that led to the infamous Dogcast. But
and I guarantee you, I know who we're talking about. and you know you're listening. We know you're still here.
Yeah, you're still here. But it used to really bother me, but now it doesn't. And, I know that we're coming from a pure place and just trying to do the best we can. And when obviously connecting a lot of people, and it's been awesome. And, you can't please everybody. And it's easy to say that, but it's a good feeling when, that really settles into your heart and it doesn't bother you,
Yep.
And I think that's at least with me, that's always been a struggle, that you're, people pleasing, and I think a lot of people come from that sort of perspective. And while we want to do things that people like, and that are interesting, it doesn't always, have to be led by someone else. You go do what you want to do, man.
Yeah. That's it. Just do it.
And right now, you want to get the hell off the podcast. Do something else.
I got stuff to do, man. I got a weekend's worth of training to catch up on and look over. And we had Hayden's birthday and family in town, so I wasn't as up to date as usually I am on the weekend. So yeah, I'm gonna hop on Training Peaks, do some weekend, check in with my Ohio peeps, check in with people who raced.
Oh yeah, and you're gonna backload me a training plan.
That's right. Backload you a Louisville training plan.
Yeah.
2.5 hour run Monday morning.
Holy crap! Can you
customize
me? No, 2.5.
I'm customizing you. Don't worry. I got Tuesday rollerblading. I got Thursday bike run bricks with a split Pushmo with ankle weights. Yeah, I got you. It'll be customized. Don't you worry.
Oh man, I wish you could work the above ground pool.
Yeah, well,
in there, but
yeah, donations have to go up for that to happen. But yeah, we will catch.
Thinking
you
about
on
a late season buy, bro.
Anyway, get off.
Come on, that's part of my identity, man.
I know it is. Just sign off before we get another 2-star review.
Okay, it's been great having you.
See ya.
Thanks.